Wait for it, and we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans, it's time for your daily dose of shenanigan over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans and one chaos coordinator geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. So without further ado, first the elephant in the room. Nick, can you believe we've made it through 5 seasons since the rebrand?
Sure.
we've got
He's at a loss for words.
Some of the things I've said on this show, I thought we would have been canceled like season 1.
Yeah, we've got.
We're uncancelable. I don't bend the knee, so they can all, GFC on there.
Well, that and we had the required podcaster drunk episode where we were just crap faced. We were doing an interview and the guest was
turn me shit face, sir. That is the.
We're too early into the podcast to be doing the cuss words for the.
James Fain already holds the record at like 32 seconds.
No. If you're too early into the podcast, they'll censor you and hide your episode on YouTube.
Oh, not on the bit shoot.
No, they don't care over there. Rumble, you can pretty much say anything you want to if it's not illegal. But so
no, I've said things
on. We've got over 500 episodes of this one, and we had 176 from Sci-Fi Shenanigans. Man, I've talked a lot. You think people get sick of it by now, but I mean, I guess we've got them fooled, huh?
Nah, we switch up the format a little bit, how we question things. It's a lot more fun now.
I'm having more fun now that I don't stick to a script. It's a little less boring. Although, like I said, sometimes we go out of pocket and say really wacky things. In our defense, we were left unsupervised because Stabby's been gone a lot doing her whole cooking thing for the holidays. Yeah. So if you think about it, Nick, it's her fault.
It's totally her fault. It was homemade pizza last night.
Oh, those pictures look delicious. You were making it very hard for me to get back on the dieting bandwagon with all those like glorious pictures of pizza.
No, that pizza tasted like Skinny can go fuck itself.
All right.
So I had earlier.
Now we're gonna let our guests introduce themselves. We have the one, the only, Mr. Matthew Jasso.
What's up, everybody? What are we doing? I forgot why we're here. Are we talking about stripes?
The Bill Murray? We're talking about Mark Singer.
It's Army training. What kind of training? Army training, sir.
Yeah.
So do you always do the standing desks and the ADD like fidgety stuff?
Yes. Because the problem is I do not like to sit down, especially when I'm talking. So like when I'm on the phone, I'm usually walking through this office. I don't sit. I cannot sit and talk. I don't know why. I've just never been able to do it. So yes, I'm always. If you go watch my podcast, We Are the Batman. Every single episode, I do this. Like there's one episode when I was really sick that I sat down and it was really weird. Yeah, no, I'm always do that. When I write scripts, I'm usually standing up and writing. I don't sit that often unless I'm like
every time he calls me, he is moving around.
If you had like a Fitbit, you probably like rack up crazy high step counts every day.
If I had one of those things, probably.
It's insane.
Just watch just going off the wall, like, dude, like,
please sit down. You're making me tired.
You're overworking me, man. The battery's draining, bro.
All right, next we have Mr. Michael Morton of Space Force fame, apparently.
Yeah. No, I actually do work for the Space Force. I'm a Guardian.
Okay. Nice. I thought it was a joke, but we'll go with it. No. Guardian. What? I mean, how does it feel to be wearing like the Battlestar Galactica uniform?
Well, fortunately, I'm working for them as a civilian. I'm retired from the Air Force and working for the Space Force as a civilian, so I don't have to wear the funny costumes.
But you could like cosplay or LARP as them, right?
I could, but why would I when there's so much better options out there? I don't get accused of ripping off Battlestar Galactica or Star Trek or whatever the hell else people want to accuse us of ripping off.
Yeah. Okay.
Because apparently everything's already been done before.
Well, the funny one is when people get like, "Oh, you totally stole that from X," and then you look at the dates and like, "Yeah, this one was first." So if anyone, the other one stole it from,
Yeah.
And then you point that out to people and they get really mad at you because I've had that happen a few times where they thought something came first when it actually was derivative of the other.
Yep. Although I will say that we definitively do not have any monkeys in space. Alive?
Current.
That's a reference to the Space Force show with Steve Carell.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
I forgot about, I started watching season 1. I remember laughing, and then life happened and I forgot about it. I'm not even sure where we watched it. Is it Netflix or Prime or what? Netflix?
Yeah.
Did it stay good? Did it get horrible?
It just was weird.
Okay.
I think that the problem I have with that show is that the stuff that was good was really, really good, and I wanted to follow it. And then the rest of it was like, I don't need any of this.
Yeah.
Like the Lisa Kudrow character, they should have killed her off for the first 10 minutes, so we never had to return to that storyline. But
How so you really feel?
Yeah, so it was just like stuff like that where I'm like, man, I really, really want to like this show, but there's so much like, why are we following this stuff?
I mean, have you guys ever seen a movie called Pentagon Wars?
Yes.
Yeah, about the development of the Bradley fighting system.
Yeah, so that is absolutely hilarious. And, the fact that it is based on real life events, they should have gone with something like that because life is stranger than fiction. And some of the stories working with the Pentagon and other things like that, it's just, you know what? You look around and you're like, am I in a movie? I mean, where's the cameras? Because this cannot be real.
Am I being punked?
Yeah.
Being punked.
Just every so often you got to react to the audience.
Yeah, every so often you're like, wait, you say something, you pause, you're like waiting for the soundtrack, or you walk in, the general walks into a room, you're looking for where's his music,
It's probably weird that I look at a invisible camera at certain points of the day and do a fourth wall break.
So is Pentagon Wars the one where they made up a fake war for the people? No, that's Wag the Dog.
That's Wag the Dog. That's De Niro.
Pentagon Wars is about the development of the Bradley.
Yeah, and having been a Bradley platoon leader, it totally makes sense now that it was designed by a woman. Because everything is this. To get to things, you have to have small hands to get in there. And to set up the coax, all that. Just like,
it's the ultimate compromise vehicle. Person.
Yeah. It's
okay. All right, well then. The next part of the introduction is where we met everybody. We were actually met at a local pet shop. We were looking for our own pet panther, but apparently you need special licenses, and they locked somebody up who's never going to financially recover from that because he had cats. So we decided we'd just talk about it instead.
I was in the corner laughing because that wasn't a panther in the movie. It was a freaking tiger.
I know. They dyed the tiger. So, all right, so the religion questions, and I did theme them thematically from the Beastmaster inspiration, but Planet of the Apes, Arachnophobia, or Anaconda. Michael, you get to go first this time.
Okay, so Planet of the Apes, original or remake? Or remake or remake? The original then. That's my choice, is the original Planet of the Apes.
I tried to pick movies that were from the same decade where possible as the one we're talking about because it kind of keeps you compare like with like. It's not fair to compare CGI from 2000s to, the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. What about you, Matthew?
I mean, Charlton Heston wins all the time.
Get your hands off me, you damn dirty apes.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with Planet of the Apes, especially because I didn't see either one of those other movies.
All of them.
It wins by default.
Hey, which one are you picking?
It's Planet of the Apes, man. Those other two movies are shit.
You were a horrible
Arachnophobia was funny. John Goodman's character was hilarious.
I loved Arachnophobia
moments, but we're dealing with spiders, and that's like my Indiana Jones trope there. I don't like spiders. Anaconda's fine. I can deal with skates, but you had to watch J-Lo for like 2 hours and a crazy John Voight.
Yes, but every time I think of Anaconda, I think of the love guru himself, Sir Mix-a-Lot, and then I know his Anaconda doesn't want any. So it's not going to eat you because I don't have buns.
Yeah, but J-Lo had buns, so like she was in mortal danger from jump.
But you and I, Nick, we're not, so we would be safest in Anaconda. I'm just saying.
Oh no, I have an ass. Like I will die from an anaconda bite one day.
Okay, well, I'm not going to look to verify.
I don't go that far south. That's why.
I'm not going to look to verify. Just we don't have that kind of relationship, Nick.
Oh, I'm sending you an ass pic later.
Yeah. Are you about to do that Tyson turnaround? Is that what's about to happen?
Yeah. My balls was hot.
Or or do the Instagram pose. I have nothing else to offer, where you kind of turn your back to the camera. Maybe touch your lip with your finger.
Squatting, 430 pounds without developing an ass by accident. So.
All right. And then because we are polytheistic, we've got the Sword and the Sorcerer, the live action one, not the Disney movie, Deathstalker or Dragon Slayer. Nick, we're gonna let you go first this time. I know I'm gonna mix you up.
Oh, man. Dragon Slayer or Deathstalker. I have to coin flip that one. They are both equally horrible, but fantastic to watch. They're those movies that are so bad they're awesome.
And it's the 80s, so there's a lot of movies flopping around.
There's mommy milkers just flopping around everywhere. Ooh, don't get mad at me. Send hate mail to Stabby. There are breasts apparent in both films, which I was a big fan of in the 80s. Hell, I'm still a fan. So I'm going to say it's a tie between those two movies.
Okay. What about you, Matthew?
I got to go Sword and the Sorcerer. I love that movie. It's so bad. It's great. Lee Horsley, who I don't think I ever saw anywhere else ever again because of what I watch. He was fantastic. And again, like I said before we started recording, three-bladed sword that shoots swords, right there, it's already epic. There's no comparison. You can't even
that was a slice of cool right there.
Absolutely. All right. What about you, Morton?
Oh yeah, I am definitely going for the Sword and the Sorcerer as well, because the only thing more cheesy than shooting blades out of your swords is, I can't remember the name of the movie, but it had the guy with the heart bow, where it's the magic bow that shot the energy bolts. Remember that one?
I've seen that a
couple times. Cartoon?
No, this was oh god, I can't remember.
Hawk the Slayer?
It's Archer, Fugitive from the Empire.
Man, that's a deep cut, bro. I'm gonna have to check that out.
You have to check it out, man. That is
like Blade Trinity.
Yeah, that's a new one on me. What about you, Nick?
I went first.
He went first. What about you, JR? Which one would you pick?
Yeah, what about you, JR? What about you, JR?
I was giving you a chance to change your mind to the right answer, which is Dragon Slayers, because dragon.
No, you can kiss my whole ass. I said what I said, and I'll die on this hill, and I got a banner to prove it.
Nick, you'll die on any hill you find.
Wait, Dragon Slayer's
all the
fun,
right
but
ones.
it's not as good as
Dragon Slayer's fun. Deathstalker's fun. They're all fun movies in their own right.
Yeah.
But
so Nick, I just like Dragon Slayer because it has the little light up crystal.
Nick,
I judge those three movies based on how bad they were and how enjoyable it was that they were that bad.
There is room, absolutely there is room for cheese and B movies that are cringe. The cringe level, the higher the cringe, the more awesome they become. Because I like that they don't take themselves too seriously.
The cringe, pleasurable movie. It's like peanut butter and chocolate. It just goes together.
So Nick, you keep mentioning you'll die on that hill. There's actually a short story.
Been like 15 episodes where I haven't said that.
Of the 500?
Yeah. So do the math. I can't. It's very
11%.
Anyway, sorry, Jared, you were saying.
Yeah, there's actually a short story about that. That is the theme. A Hell Upon Which to Die is actually the name of it. That I think you'd absolutely love. Joe Vasicek wrote it. It's just it's a short story, but I'm going to send that to you.
Okay.
I'll throw it in the show notes, dear listeners, so you can check it out as well and see what you think. But I highly recommend it. It is kind of emotionally moving, but every time you say A Hill Upon Which to Die, I think of that short story. So now I'm going to have to send it to you.
I say it less eloquently than that. Like, I'll die on that hill. I don't use the flavored, flowy, flowery language sometimes. That's why I have Matthew.
I mean, there's room to be workman-like prose, all Tom Clancy-esque.
Oh, I am not that type of writer. I mean, I broke down my first story that I wrote for you, like based on an op order. So the chapters were based on op orders.
All right, and so the next question, because we are talking about the Beastmaster, which animal would you like to be your companion or familiar animal? Michael.
Oh, definitely the wolf.
The wolf? Okay.
Yeah. Most especially the gray wolf.
Why the gray wolf?
Because it's probably the baddest ass of them all. It's also the biggest of them all. So
Yeah.
They are the biggest, yeah.
Okay. What about you, Matt?
Do they have to be real animals or can they be mythical?
Are you going to say liger?
No, what is the one where what is that one called where they combine the tiger and the lion and it like gets
Ligers.
gigantic?
A liger, yeah.
Yeah, I do a liger.
Real
Dude.
thing.
Those things are crazy big. It's insane how gigantic those things are. I would do one of those just to be like, you're the Beastmaster. Like I'm the Beast. I don't know what the beyond Beastmaster because
I'm the Beast King.
There you go.
Beast
the
God.
Beast God.
No. It's not supposed to be what your wife calls you.
There you go. There you go.
All right, Nick. What about you? What are you picking?
Oh, I want a falcon or a hawk. Probably more a hawk for obvious reasons.
You got to call the hawk real quick.
Got to call the hawk.
Go ahead, do it. Do it. You got to do it.
I think I heard something in there. Oh my god!
I don't know. Like
he did it probably because he was 25 years old when he made that movie. But.
So his voice cracks. So if we're going for wolves, Michael, it's the gray wolf is the largest. I actually thought the dire wolves were larger, but they're actually slightly smaller than the modern gray wolf, which surprised me. But I would go with the Caucasian shepherd dog, which is like believed to be the inspiration for Cujo and some of the war mounts in fantasy where you'd ride the animal into battle because they take on bears. Like they single-handedly will take down bears. And they are big.
They have the keg of whiskey on their neck.
No, that's a smaller version of the dog.
So that's two.
No, the ones you're thinking about.
My dog would be 2 barrels right there. John Jameson's own right there.
Yeah, I know what you're talking. Saint Bernard. Saint Bernards are the ones that.
Yes. They do that in the snow so that your blood thins out so you don't die.
Dying is bad. I prefer not to do that.
I did it once. It didn't take. I didn't like it.
Okay, just because it's been that kind of show and we've all been going a little nuts. Did I forget anybody for this question?
You. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, and then last, before we talk about our sponsor and the coffee that we all love, if you could shift into any one animal, what would it be? Nick, we're going to make you go first.
Oh, wow. On the spot. I could shift into any other type. Okay, so here's it gets weird because if I could have a familiar, I was like, oh, I want a hawk. But if I could shift into another animal, it would be a wolf.
Cool.
Or a bat. Right. A bat would also be.
I'm Batman.
No, because I've been watching What We Do in the Shadows, and I want to be like Laszlo. I just be like, bat.
All right, what about you, Matt?
I'd turn into a cheetah so I get places quickly.
70 miles an
Speaking
hour.
of quick, I was having this conversation with my kid today because he's been watching some of the old like 80s cartoons. So he's watching the Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. And he's like, yeah, I'd want to be a Roadrunner because I can be fast. I'm like, well, actually, biologically, the Roadrunner would get caught because it's slower than the Coyote.
The Coyote's actually faster.
Like your whole childhood was a lie, and now his can be too.
Oh, I've already accepted that fact that my whole childhood was a lie.
All right, what about you?
You would go back to it if you could.
Oh, yeah, in a heartbeat.
We could drink out of the fire hose and not die, or like the water hose.
That whole meme with like blue pill, red pill, red pill. You go back to when you're 6 years old, but you retain all your knowledge. Like, yeah, that one right there.
Yeah.
Come on.
If I'm doing that, I'm going to learn a few things about finance so I know what to invest in real quick and then go back.
Oh, in 2015, I'm going to invest a shit ton of money in Bitcoin.
I was thinking about Bitcoin and Apple were two of the products I might invest in.
Well, when I was 6, so that's 1984, I was 6 years old. I would convince my parents to buy into Apple and then give it to me. You know what, Dad? It'd be a really financial thing for me to set me up for the future here in 1984, and you buy a whole bunch of, like, I don't know, 200 shares of Apple stock right now, and then like for me, you just entrust it to me so I can be freaking rich as shit in my 20s.
You want to hear something that'll make you cringe then, since you mentioned Bitcoin? A buddy of mine is a computer nerd. And when Bitcoin first came out, he had 5 Bitcoins and he didn't think it would ever amount to anything. So he threw the computer away, didn't worry about it. And then do the math, and 5 Bitcoins is worth now
$500,000.
Yeah, he's hating himself.
I got a guy at work that has 26 Bitcoin. I'm like, what are you still doing here, dude? Why are you working this job? Go retire.
He's got to pay his electricity bills.
There you go.
Yeah. That'll cost like 2 Bitcoin right there.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So if I was going to shift, I don't know. I think I'd still, I like the Caucasian Shepherd dog because it's big. So as like a companion, you want badass. For actual, like if I'm going to shift, ever since I read the Belgariad where Grandpa Wizard shifted into a wolf, that has just been so cool. It's totally going to do a wolf.
So
just as a gray wolf.
Any animal, living or dead, I would pick the Velociraptor.
Ooh, yeah, but I mean,
Utah or regular
Velociraptor without a pack, because
you're still fucking badass, even if you don't.
True.
Yeah, with or without a Chris Pratt.
Also,
Chris Pratt is my player.
Answers.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think if I could go back historic animals, what would I be? I still like wolf, although if I could, I don't know,
like Mastodon sounds cool as shit.
Yeah, but you have to be able to exist like when you're shifted. Like if you go and you're a dinosaur and people see you, like suddenly you can't like blend in and do all the stuff.
Things existed with the Mastodon.
He's talking about now. If you turn to a dinosaur now, people would.
I'll
just
give it
like,
time.
Oh
They're gonna bring one of them back from like fossils and shit.
Yep.
Even though there's like 6 movies that say that's a bad idea.
I mean, they've talked about bringing some of the saber-tooth back that they uncovered in Siberia.
No,
but they could
leave
do
that bastard alone. We don't want that smoke.
They had a couple of them that died, and then in an avalanche, and so they were frozen so quickly that there was no time for bacteria to get into it. So now they can actually sequence the DNA.
That's cool.
Unless they bring it back and it goes horribly wrong because we have a bunch of Jurassic Park movies to tell how it's going to happen.
Definitely a Michael Crichton book waiting to happen.
What we really need is that one doctor. Oh, I'm drawing a blank on the Malcolm something.
Yeah.
To go around and tell all of them, like, you spent so long thinking about whether you could, you forgot to think about whether you should. Yeah. I don't know why I went like Italian Guido gangster voice for that. Somebody's got to do voices better than me, but we're gonna just roll with it.
I don't even need the character. I just need Jeff Goldblum to come and tell me.
Yeah,
I have never seen a Jeff Goldblum movie that wasn't amazing. Even the cheesy ones were awesome in their own right.
Both girls are easy.
I mean, he made a Cronenberg film awesome with The Fly, so
that's true.
Oh, that is a good movie. I've seen that. Like, he sold it, and that was like the CGI wasn't all the way there, so he had to like wear that crap.
Yeah, it was like Cronenberg was known for schlock, and he made it a legitimate, terrifying horror sci-fi movie.
Yeah. But yeah, if we're gonna shift though, I want the ability to shift back. That's got to be kind of like a prerequisite built into this.
I think that goes without saying with the shifter capability.
I'm just throwing that out there because I'm reading a book right now, a fantasy novel that has the Fae in it, and I'm thinking like you got to be very specific in the details of the contract.
But yeah,
this is your podcast.
Yeah, when you're dealing with the gin, they'll write little things in there. You got to be.
I'm just saying, Matt. You never know who's listening. I mean, like, what if you've got the gin sitting in your closet, you don't know about it, and they hear you say that, and then boom.
Yeah, I have goblins who are trying to steal my child in there. Don't worry about it. Something about a maze.
Never seen the cat's eye, like trying to kill Drew Barrymore.
So you can take the Major Payne approach to parenting to get rid of them. Unload your 9mm. If they're not dead, they're sure not happy.
Sir, that was not a 9mm. That was the great equalizer. That was Colt 1911 45 ACP that he put into that closet.
There's talk about a second Major Payne, and I'm actually, if they get the same actor, I might go with it. I'd watch it.
And don't promote him. He's been a major for the last 30 years.
He's been booted out. So, like all the people that do the ROTC type stuff, they take their last rank.
Lieutenant Colonel retired, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, maybe they could give him like a one silver oak leaf instead of the gold, but But yeah, like, so if you got out as an E6 and you like taught ROTC, that's what you're going to rank for that purpose would be for wearing it. So it would track if they kept him as a major.
Yeah. I don't know.
And the play on words is just too perfect. Or Colonel Pain, like that doesn't have the same major pain, like the implication is he's a pain.
Yeah.
Like it works.
Yeah. It doesn't have the same
alliteration. Yeah.
That too. That's a big word. I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah. It just means it sounds, sort of lyrical.
Matthew, you're my writer. Help me out. What does that mean?
He just
rhymes.
It means it sounds neat together.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go with that. That's fine. I agree. Whatever, he's my writer. Whatever he says, I'll draw it.
Yeah.
Are you actually building comics together?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what are you guys building?
Phantom Hawk and Quickwire, and we're dabbling with a little superhero team to be decided. Well, it's not to be decided. It's already been decided. To be announced.
Yeah. Am I allowed to say more than what you just said, or am I done?
Nah, dude. The spoilers.
Okay.
Man. Let's go, baby.
Okay. Yeah. I did a soft reboot of Phantom Hawk. So all 4 of those issues are done for the first story arc, and then I'm in the middle of writing issue 3 of Quickwire, which is a newer character that we developed together. So yeah, all for Apogee. So it's been a lot of fun.
What is a soft reboot? Does that mean you hit them less hard?
Yes. It means you do what James Gunn's doing right now. You keep the stuff you like, and then you redo the stuff you didn't like.
Yeah, it's a course correction from the original series. Is when I talk about soft reboots, how I see it, it's like you took everything that you liked about the original, series, and you kept it, and then things that the plot holes, things like that you're like, oh man, I totally wrote myself into a corner there, and I don't have time to explain it because we're doing this, and that. You have that opportunity now to just kind of course correct it. And
so, can you recycle some of the same art when you do that, or do you got to start all over?
No, because that art is horrible. Because I drew it when I first starting out, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So, I didn't come into my own till issue 4.
I have done rewrites of scripts where it was like, hey, we have 6 pages of art. We want to keep as much as possible. Can you rewrite the script and keep what you can? And it was okay, but you're really locked into okay, I've got these 5 pages we have to keep. So I had to write a different first page and different 3 pages afterwards. And it was a different story, but it's one of those where it's yeah, I don't want to do that again. So yeah, you really want to, like he said, more often than not, when you do a reboot, time has passed. You want to redo the art to match the new method, the new storyline, the new character. Some of the characters have to go. Some of them have to be updated. It's kind of like going from
some of them don't become characters anymore. They are now organizations.
Look, I'm sorry. I didn't know that was a guy.
It was a Bob Ross moment. It was a happy accident. We can bring the character in later. But what you did was once I reread it, I was like, actually, that's cooler. So you have an organization named after you because that's who that character is. He's very narcissistic.
So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Yeah, all that to say, Beastmaster.
Okay. Well, let's go back when it comes out.
Well, we're gonna get back to the podcast, and I'm gonna ask you. So, because we are civilized human beings here at the Blasters and Blades podcast, we are no longer knuckle dragging troglodytes. Coffee or tea, and how are you taking it, Michael?
Coffee with just a little bit of creamer.
What does Space Force coffee look like?
Well, it depends. Is the room lit or not lit? Because if it's not lit, you can see the faint glow.
Ooh. Okay. I'm there. I'll try it.
Otherwise, it looks like normal coffee.
I mean, I don't need my liver, so why not?
There's an ice cube in there and you stir it with.
Got to be able to be drank in anti-gravity, so it has it's just like a pre-sun, but it has caffeine.
It's a grown-ups. All right, so Matthew, what are you drinking?
I take my coffee black with some kind of sugar-free sweetener that I bought from Ross for $5. Paid more for the pump that I attached to it than the bottle of the flavor.
As one does. As one does. So, You mentioned Capri Sun, and I'm just thinking, like, when I got married, I got all of my groomsmen like knives because I, was getting ready. We were all military. We're getting ready to deploy. My uncle was in the wedding though, and he was no longer in the military. He's just a lawyer. He's a lawyer now, so I figured something classier. So I got him a Russian officer flask because they gave them when the Russians during the Soviet Union days when they graduated from whatever officer school. They gave him a flask with a sickle and a hammer and all that. And my cousin, his son was like 2 or 3 at the time. Daddy, what's that? He goes, it's a sippy cup for adults.
Yep.
All right, Nick, what are you drinking other than showing us your backside?
Yeah. I don't know. I think the anaconda the anaconda wants it, buddy. The anaconda wants it.
Damn right he does. No, coffee black. No sweetener. Thick enough to stand a spoon up in it.
Okay. So I've been and I'm not just saying this because I'm a shameless shill, but I'm also saying it because we're shamelessly shilling. But I had started with I had the Swiss Miss hot chocolate, and I started going through a hot chocolate kick, and then I'm like, I've actually bought some coffee brand coffee hot chocolate. Let's give that a run, and oh my god, it's a lot better.
Really?
So I've been drinking the Jenna had kept telling me it was better, and she's bad for your diet, by the way. Her fudge that she sent us came in like,
oh yeah, I've eaten half of it already.
Diet schmiet. Who needs calories?
Diabetes in a is awesome.
I just have to beat myself harder when the new year starts at the gym, and it'll all go.
At the gym.
Phrasing.
At the gym. Oh, okay. I'm glad you clarified that.
Yeah. How many tabs do you have open?
If I was running for Congress, you'd know because I'd share it. Oh, wait, too soon? They've caught a couple politicians that way.
It's perfect.
And it was bipartisan. They cut them on both sides. They're all weirdos, so it doesn't really matter.
It's true.
But yeah, so
I'm gonna apologize. I had a lot of coffee today, so if I'm way over the top, just tell me to chill, and I'll try and pull it back a bit.
Oh no, that's actually a prerequisite on the show.
I mean, you work with Nick. I don't expect sanity. I mean, even if you were when you started, you're not when you leave. So it's like Hotel California. Everybody comes out differently, or do they?
You can leave anything. You can. What is the line from that song? You can check out anytime you want, but you can never leave.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Was that a drug song? I know. I'm curious what that song was actually about.
I think it was an Insane Asylum song.
I always thought it was a Roach Motel song.
What's that, Matt?
I thought it was a Roach Motel song.
I'm just saying Bob Ross would like that because, happy little accidents and all that. So, all right, with that, we're going to roll the beautiful bean footage because we got no good segue here. And I'm going to talk about our sponsor, and then we're going to jump in and talk about Beastmaster.
The necromantic magic of the Great Lich has held sway over the world for 100 years. Can a young knight of the god of death and the last priestess of the goddess of life destroy him before their homeland falls? The only survivor of his convoy, journeyman knight Darian, is entrusted with an ancient scroll and one mission. Return the scroll to the High Temple in Hothan, no matter the cost. He never expected that journey to include stumbling onto the last healer in the world. Now he must take not only the scroll but the woman across the kingdom to safety, each step dogged by the relentless undead. Death's Knight, Book 1 in the completed War of the Lich series by Matthew T. Summers and Jenna Ray.
All right. Thank you for sticking with us through that commercial interlude. And with that, we're going to start talking about the Beastmaster franchise. So it looks like you and I are the only ones here. Nick went to check his anaconda or something. I don't know. And Michael is being polite and using his manners and stuff, unlike the rest of us. So let's talk about Beastmaster. Let's talk about the Beastmaster franchise. So first, what do you think about it makes it so iconic?
Because it was on HBO all the time.
TBS used to be the Beastmaster show for a while. It used to be like nonstop.
Yeah, HBO. Hey, Beastmaster's on. No, I mean, honestly, I think it's just look, as we talked about, I think it was before we got on air, like there was so much of this sword and sandal schlock for the longest time. You didn't take a lot of budget. As long as the dude is ripped and the chicks were willing to show themselves, it didn't matter what the story was. And I think honestly, going back and watching some of those movies over the last couple of years, like similar to Conan, like there was something above the rest with this movie. Like as much as I may talk some smack about Mark Singer later, like he was dialed in. Everybody in this movie was dialed in. It didn't feel like anybody was picking up a paycheck. The story itself was interesting. There was a different kind of lore. It wasn't just this dumb like guy running around fighting people for no reason. So I think that a lot of it comes from that. Like, look, anybody can find movies with whatever we want to find, but when there's a good story there, and I'm not saying it was great, like we're not talking about, Citizen Kane, but like there was just some
Citizen Kane.
Yeah, but there's like some interesting characters. There's a little bit of a revenge plot. The action, honestly, is pretty good for this genre. Like it's not great. You still have the sword clanging instead of actually trying to hit each other. But I mean, I think that just the fact that he's so dialed in and that everybody else is really there and that it's just different than, because I mean, most of those movies were like, he has to have revenge, bang as many women as possible, and then kill everybody, and then we're done. So having him have basically superpowers and a little bit different story, I thought was like really interesting. So
plus he had weaknesses. I mean, just because he had that interaction with the animals, it didn't make him Superman, right? It wasn't, he didn't win all his fights, and it wasn't easy going. You could see the struggles that he faced, getting to where he was, and it was cool, right? Especially the what are they, ferrets or whatever his little cute animals were. Everybody loved the ferrets, right? And the others that supported him, Tanya Roberts, John Amos, right? They were highly capable, and as a matter of fact, they were probably better fighters than he was.
More skilled.
Yeah, and then you got Rip Torn just chewing up the scenery, which was great, right? I mean, watching him go was just fantastic. But he wasn't the ultimate bad guy; it was the leader of the Jun Horde, and then so you had that absolutely just insane battle sequence at the end with the moat on fire and everything. It's like they kept turning the dial past 11 as you went further and further into the movie.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I'm there.
And the scene with the bats, the bat people, and then they come back at the end. That was kind of
vampires. Yeah, vampires
that was
of
awesome.
That world, which was super cool.
Yeah,
made no sense. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, for some reason they worship an eagle or a hawk or whatever, but yeah.
So what happened was in the writer's room, they did a line of white powder, and then they're like, "Man, it would be really awesome."
Here we go.
Yeah.
But before they do that line, you got to acknowledge the fact that they probably said, "Shit, we've written ourselves into a corner here. We've got this massive, unbeatable horde. How are we going to take them out?"
Yeah. What if there were these great?
Too much.
Yeah, what if there were these great aliens that had bat wings and they could eat people?
You've heard the expression "sobriety killed rock and roll." I think it also killed the great movies.
I mean, let's talk about SNL back in the 70s. Everyone was high as shit, all hot up on the.
It was. I mean, it was political, but like they made some fun of everybody. Like it was
nobody left unscathed. It was awesome.
Yeah. Don't get me started about kids these days. I can shake my fist at the sky. I'm old enough now. All right, so do you guys buy into the not buy into? Do you guys think they're ever going to recover the original mastered reels, because those went missing? They were taken somehow, and now the guy's got the rights back to it, but he can't find them.
I
hadn't heard that. But wow,
what are we talking about?
So one of the guys that worked there took him home with him once everything was done, and when he got the rights back, he wanted them. But when the guy died, they just disappeared out of his home collection somehow.
For Beastmaster?
Yeah.
Oh,
look into it. It's part of the lore. The guy that directed it, I'm trying to blank on his name right now. He's actually put an open call out trying to get people, if you know where it is, if you've got it, give it back, because he wants to redo Beastmaster to what his vision was and not what it became. Because I guess There's a couple of YouTube videos that were fun to watch when I was prepping for this after I watched the movies about like the deep lore of the shows.
Oh, okay.
And that was one of the things they talked about. I mean, obviously they talked on the continuity errors because how could you not? Like book 1, it's a panther that was basically a painted tiger. In book 2, the painted tiger is now just a tiger because they ran out of black dye. And then I mean movie 3. In the third movie, it's a lion.
Yeah, well, having just recently watched the set because I had never seen the sequels because I thought this was a Beastmaster podcast, not a franchise podcast. So when you were like, "Hey, we need to watch the other 2?" I was like, "Oh no."
Yeah, no.
I've missing 2 other movies in a
so
series.
bad.
Oh, Are we going to go into the sequel? Or do we want to keep on the first one?
We're just talking about the franchise.
Okay. So the thing I would say about this franchise is it's Highlander level sequel nonsense. The second movie completely rewrites most of the story for the first one. We completely forget Tal. He's gone. The younger brother.
Yeah.
We make up an older brother. Nothing makes sense and links to the second one. And then that movie's so bad, the third movie ignores the second movie completely and is like a direct sequel to the first one.
Well, so, if you watch it, the brother is when they're asking him to stay and rule, the brother's back there. I mean, they just don't mention him, but he was shown. The actor was there. He had a cameo
in the second movie.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
No, because the movies are the second movie is like 9 years after the first one. That kid would be a teenager in his 20s.
I watched them all back to back, so I could be mixing the details. It's possible. It was loosely based on the Beastmaster novel by Andre Norton. Is the basis for the movie. One of the things, the original negatives are missing.
Interesting.
But one of the things I did like about it was kind of the conflict of progress versus nature. If you're looking at like the scope of it, like he kind of represents natural man, like he's in touch with the animals, the nature, the earth. And then you got these, I mean, obviously it's sword and sorcery, so progress is relative, but they're trying to build, these massive stone edifices to progress and worship their weird gods and the like. So I like the larger message cloaked in the comedy of 80s, movies.
Yeah.
So did anybody else notice any deeper themes?
I mean, I like it may be weird, but the whole like class/racism is blatantly apparent when the king tells his unknowing it's his son that he's a freaky piece of crap and needs to get out of his kingdom. And it's like, wow, dude, like this guy
he just saved your ass.
He just totally craps on this dude. You freak who speaks to animals. I want to kill everybody with my ill-advised plan.
Yeah, I noticed that. Like, I just wanted to bitch slap that dude. Like, come on, like
and then he cries about his son who he just crapped on.
Well, and that's the other thing too. You got Tal. But when did he have time in imprisonment to mate with another woman? Because there's obviously a huge age gap between Tal and Dar.
Well, that's because I don't know how long he's been in jail. Was it that some of that's a little weird because his mom's nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, I mean they weren't specific in that, but obviously at some point after Tal was born, that's when Zed took over.
Yeah. So the queen Dar's mom is killed during that process.
Yeah.
So that means the king had another wife who he had this other son with, and then that wife is nowhere to be found either. And there's no mention, question, nothing about who she is.
I mean, the dude just can't keep a wife.
Alabama going there with Kira.
I mean, who would blame him?
Oh,
which reminds me,
Roberts. That's the first set of boobs I ever saw on television. It was awesome.
I have the funniest story about that. Is I had always watched the TBS version of this movie, and I rented the DVD a couple of years ago when I covered this film for a different podcast, and decided, hey, son, you should watch this movie, and did not realize, or maybe forgot because I saw this in the theater, that there is a fully nude scene of her bathing for a good minute, and it was just like, son, turn around. But remember.
so here's some more deep lore. When they filmed that scene where she's bathing, it was so freaking cold that they were worried about hypothermia, and everyone's like bundled up. And there was a guy whose whole job was to wrap her in a hug with a blanket to warm her back up every time they got out of the water. I'm thinking he was like, "This is the best job ever."
Best job ever.
Yeah.
Can you imagine trying to put that on your resume? I warm chicks up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Takes it to a new level of pasty warmer.
But yeah, it was filmed in the winter, and then I'm like, man, she's kind of hot. And because I'm watching it now, I'm like, I wonder whatever happened to her. Oh, she died of old age.
Well, she was in that 70s show for a long time, and was in Sheena, Queen of the Jungle.
Another amazing movie.
She did Charlie's Angels for a while too.
Did she really?
Yeah.
Sheena, Queen of the Jungle has a special place in my heart because that episode of one of my previous podcasts had the most listens by a long shot, even before that woman died. And I don't know why, because no one ever talks about that movie. It's the weirdest thing. Anyway, all to say, yeah. But no, I think, yeah, it's a weird. The time. All right. Do we want to stick with the first one? Because I have the whole thing I want to talk about with the franchise, but we'll stick with the first.
We're going to do both, but stick with the first one for now. What you were saying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I really love the sword fighting. I think, like, unlike a lot of the things that it just instantly turns into cling, 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 he does seem to have a little bit more skill than just that. His little freaking bladed boomerang is awesome. So much so that I realized that I stole that for a character and forgot about it. And when I watched the Beastmaster, I was like, oh my gosh, I stole the troika from this guy. Oh my gosh. But no, I thought giving him these helpers, you got at a character that was, because like, look, I love Conan the Barbarian, one of my top movies, but Conan just kills everybody. There's very little planning.
And he'll punch out a camel.
But I think Beastmaster had like his own little squad. So it was interesting to see, like, hey, you've got these thieves that can help him escape. You've got this lion that he uses his eyes when he's been blinded. I really thought there was a lot of smart things going on here.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't just hack and slash. There was intelligence and there was planning.
There you go.
So Conan gave us the line, Conan gave you the line, crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentations of their women. But Beastmaster gave us the caw.
Yeah. How's it go, Nick? No, I do think, as much as I think I've kind of kidded about this movie, like look, I'm not trying to be this way, but I've done films before, like uber independent films. And it's like, when you're working with somebody who's not dialed in, who isn't really trying, they're just there to kind of do whatever. It's annoying as crap. And we've all seen a lot of those movies where the schlock is so schlocky and these guys aren't committing, and it makes it worse. So just Mark, I don't know if Mark Singer was so dialed in, everybody followed his lead.
Yeah, they talk about that in one of the interviews with the. If you go to behind the scenes stuff, there's a couple of channels that have broken it down with newspaper clippings and interviews at the time. So first off, the panther, which was actually a lion, actually scratched him in one of the episodes or in one of the scenes, and he had to like get patched up, clean the blood up because whatever, and then he went right back at it. So like he was committed. And after that incident, apparently the first thing he did when he walked the first thing he did when he walked into the set in the morning and the last thing he did when he left was he went and he petted the tiger, and he was like, good animal, good kitty. And they didn't have any more problems after that. But yeah, they've talked about catnip, a little bit of fish, whatever. But
I think, like you said, Mark Singer was dialed into the role, right? You believed he was the Beastmaster, but I think they did a good job with the bad guys, and like I said, Rip Torn chewing up the scenery, but his mooks, his priests, right from the very beginning, you showed just how badass they were when the two of them, hung themselves at his order, right? You're like, oh shit, these guys are like really serious about their job, right? And so when he's going up against them later on in the movie, the audience already knows this isn't going to be a walkover. These guys are seriously committed, and you're going to have to do extra, which he did, to defeat them. So I think the combination of the two, you had a good protagonist, a good antagonist, and it just made for some really, really exciting fight scenes and probably a deeper storyline than you're going to find in most other films that are comparable to this one.
Yeah.
Right.
No, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he also, like, in the beginning when you see when he first comes into his power and he's got the pet dog and the jungle horde, or however you say that. I kept hearing Jenga, but I'm hard of hearing.
John Horde.
But when they come and they raid his village and they kill everybody, they killed the dogs too. Like, I mean, obviously we know historically when you raise a village, you kill everything that you're not taking with you.
Yeah.
But I mean, from modern eyes, like, oh, you killed the puppy? Like that, you know from the beginning that these people are the bad guys.
Oh, so that makes him the first John Wick.
His name was Toto.
Yeah.
Yes, it makes him the first John Wick.
The dog saved him, remember?
Yeah, I pulled him out.
Pulls him out of the fire.
Yeah.
With an arrow
and a crossbow bolt in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And as far as training montages go, having him run through the water, slashing at the water was just enjoyable because it wasn't too much, but it was enough to show like he practiced. Right.
Yeah.
Which was kind of cool.
So dumb.
Hey, half of fighting is bravado, and if he's got bravado, you have to have the bravado to walk around in a loincloth for most of this movie.
Yeah.
Look, let's be real. Like, yeah, he was in shape.
So
yeah,
one of the things my wrestling coach in high school told me is that if you can walk into the crowded auditorium wearing nothing but a latex singlet, you can rule the world. And take that up a notch if you're just wearing a loincloth. I'm just saying.
Well,
but did you go ahead,
Michael? I say in that theme, I'll tell you what, just jumping outside the Beastmaster here for a moment, when Mark Singer had that lead role in V, right, I think his badassery carried forward. You believe that he was a fully committed into revealing those aliens as who he was. I think, he established himself in the Beastmaster movie as a not just a leading man, but one of the new genre of action heroes.
Yeah, and there was another movie he did. It was called "If You Could Hear What I See." He played like a blind musician or something. And I remember watching that movie as a kid. And it was like he was great in that. Like that's the thing that I think that's kind of unfortunate about Mark Singer is like he really was a solid actor. He was fantastic in everything I ever saw him in. Even later on when he would show up in like Highlander or the Beastmaster show, like he's great. But that second Beastmaster movie, it's like he doesn't even want to be there. But the third one, he's back. So I don't know what happens to him like late 80s, early 90s, but he just kind of seems to check out for a while. But yeah, going what you're saying, like I really was watching the second and third one. I was like, how did he not become bigger? It's not like he's a good looking dude. He was in shape in all of those movies. It's not like he got, out of shape. And then you're like, now I can't be a lead. It really makes me wonder, like, what happened to this guy that his career ended up kind of taking this weird turn?
I don't know. Like you would have figured V would have been his launch pad based on how popular that show was when it came out.
Yeah.
Unless it's Hollywood, he just didn't bend a knee to Moloch.
Yeah,
you never know.
Probably.
So one of the things that I thought was humorous about this is because and they obviously had animal wranglers getting creatures for these episodes. The beginning where he sees the bear, where he sort of first sees his power, I just felt like, dude, like, can you please like take that bear out of captivity and just feed it? It looked sad.
Is it even real? It looked like most of it looks like it's somebody in a suit.
Yeah, particularly.
It might be
red bear,
or even like
a bear rug they wrapped around a carcass.
Just moving him through. Dar. Yeah,
it was bad.
So dumb.
But yeah, so was there anything that you specifically didn't like about Beastmaster?
I think I said it before, like the weird thing about the mom, the second mom, like I felt like there's a story there that really could have added to how much the king really hated God, the villain's
Mayax.
name was Mayax. Like he took my son, killed my wife. It's weird because I don't know how much of a soliloquy you give this guy to go on, and then I found happiness and became, I just feel like there could have been a little bit more there, but ultimately it's not called Beastmaster's dad; it's called Beastmaster. So
Right.
I think
So-
that's where.
I just looked it up because we're going to talk about the bear. So yes, the bear in the 1982 movie, The Beastmaster, was real. On Mark Singer's first day of filming, a Russian bear, which is what it was, broke loose and attacked its handler. The bear was the only working bear at Hollywood at the time, so they couldn't find another. And then after they recaptured the bear that day, they turned to Mark Singer and said, "Ready to film your scene, sir."
Wow.
Okay.
How about no?
Yeah. Guess I'll give you hazard pay.
Yeah, and the younger him, was that him and the actor for? Well, no, that was later, right? No, that was his kid actor, right? The person playing him is the younger him.
Billy Jacoby.
Yeah, so that wasn't even like an adult was like, "Hey, film that scene." It was the kid. It was like, yeah, just try not to die. Your mom wouldn't like that.
What, dude? Pats on back, walks off.
Have fun.
I can just imagine the director doing the whole Roman, "We who are about to die salute you."
Yeah.
All right. So one of the things that well, first off, it's the 80s, so they had the quicksand scene. And at the time when I watched it, loved it. Now I'm like, I feel kind of disappointed that quicksand hasn't been a bigger problem because I was convinced I was going to find quicksand everywhere. Like I was like planning
the saddles to this one.
Right. So the quicksand scene is now a little bit disappointing. I like that they kind of gradually get him to the talking to animals. Like he doesn't even know he's doing it at first. And then it kind of like, you remember he's hitting his head because he's touching his head because he thinks he's going crazy or headaches, and he realizes he's starting to see through their eyes and communicate with them. So I like that they did that gradually because too often it's like, oh crap, suddenly the powers are just there and he knows what to do with them.
Yeah.
So I did like the buildup. It did feel like some of the traveling though was filler because like we've got to hit this many minutes.
Well, I think some
90,
of that too
90 minutes was the standard back then.
Well, and I also think that's some of those, like, that's a trope of the genre. Like, so many of those movies have that, like, hey, let's spend 15 minutes running through the land that we found. Talk about Krull. Like, weird movie, but there's, like, this one, like, 15-minute sequence of him climbing this mountain, and it's like, why are we watching this guy? The music's great. The scenery is beautiful, but I don't know why we're watching him climb a mountain for 10, 15 minutes. It's not like he's doing it in an exciting way. He's just, like, a little more than hiking up this mountain. But I think that's
some asshole climbing a mountain.
Yeah, it's like the Lord of the Rings movies do that. You spend 30 minutes of that first movie watching them walk through different places or run, which I think like
Clerks 2 explains that movie the best.
I mean, yes. But no, I think that is a trope of the genre. You have a good version, a good film in the genre of like, hey, if you've got the budget and you can get a location, let's fly a bird over it and let him watch what's going on. So some of that was kind of.
Beastmaster did give us the mountain, although they were jumping down from it instead of climbing up it.
There you go.
At the end, which I thought the castle palace thing was like Indiana Jones-esque, but it felt plausible. Like there were the hidden rooms were minimal. It wasn't like, let's throw a puzzle box together and build a temple around it because reasons. Like this,
I think they go further to the plot.
The funniest scene was in that temple when Kiri shows up and she's dressed now for war. She's not dressed as a slave anymore. And Dar does the double take when she shows up. It's like, wait a minute, you're not just hot chick anymore. You are hot warrior chick.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, thinking about the sets is like, there's some of these movies where you're like, I know we had a small budget, but you guys squandered this budget on other things that were not important. With this, it seems like the entire budget is in front of the camera. Yeah. Like they took the time to make some sets. They took the time to make this castle, to make a lot of find good locations, because there's some of those where like something like Death Stalker where you're like, you guys found a decent area of woods and filmed the same spot 80 different angles. So I like that a lot because same thing with like, I don't want to go back and crap on this too much, but like Krull, you could tell they spent all their money building that castle that's in it for 2 seconds. And then like the rest of the movie, they're in the forest. It's like,
so the scene with the spider lady, that was pretty well built out.
Mm-hmm. Fair. Yes, that's true.
With Beastmaster, that temple complex where they climb to the top at the end where they're sacrificing everybody. Like I've been to an actual Urgot temple that was kind of shaped like that, and having been to the real one, I thought they did a pretty good job portraying it, including that the steps aren't necessarily designed for ease of going up.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like you look at that and like you didn't find any of those locations. Like when you get the town, Mayek's temple, that thing at the end, the big wall that they had the final battle in, like none of that is found. You had to build that. So
Right.
I thought that was always really cool.
Well, they certainly spent a lot on the pyrotechnics for there at the end.
Yes. Fire bird.
So apparently this was all filmed in California and then the Valley of Fire in Nevada. I just did a quick look.
Nice.
And the temple scenes in the castle and all those scenes were filmed on the MGM UA lot. I'm not sure what UA is, but that's just
United Artists.
Okay. So yeah, it was filmed in parks and sound lots essentially, which is kind of cool. I mean, the terrain worked. I liked it, although
a lot of it looked like Joshua Tree, which would make sense.
Yeah, the one thing that didn't make sense to me is like, I don't know why, if you're going to have a culture where it's all about the animals, like it would have made more sense to me in a sort of proto-Europe look instead of desert. The sword and sandal look for the animals is like, what are they going to support themselves off of if you think of like the ecosystem?
I wouldn't be surprised if they used some of the same sets from Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah.
Like the village.
I think they're filming at the same time though. Because this is 82.
Well, Conan was in 80
81.
and we get Beastmaster in 82, which means they were probably filming in 81.
Let's see.
So they might have been using the same sets. Because that temple looked very similar to
Conan the Barbarian's 82 as well.
Is it really? I thought it was 80.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I thought it was earlier too. No, it's 80. It's 80.
So Nick, did you ever make it to the Temple of Ur in southern Iraq?
Yeah.
That gave me vibes of what we were seeing in the Beastmaster temple where they did the final fight scene in the first movie.
Oh, totally. Yeah. It's like I'm here with a precision rifle and I feel like I should have a sword and a loincloth.
Has anyone been to the Mayan ruins in Mexico?
No.
I've been to Aztec ruins in Belize, and they look very similar.
Yeah. That was because there was one of them that we visited. You could actually climb to the top. It was one of the ones that they let people climb on.
Yeah.
And looking down those uneven steps and thinking back to when they're retaking the city, right? And
they're awkwardly crawling up it.
Yeah, there's like fight to the top, right? And I'm like, holy shit, trying to climb your way up that thing with a sword in one hand and fighting a dude who's defending woof.
And Mark Singer was running up that thing.
Yeah.
One of the things I liked about this movie is a lot of times like the fight scenes look so choreographed, and I get why. Like you don't want to accidentally stab somebody. But they looked the fight scenes were more brawl and less finesse. And that's probably more accurate given the environment you set up. Like the idea of on guard and you're going to go all fencing like you're, an 18th century English lord. Like that just didn't.
If you look at some of the actual manuals from the 14th, 15th century about sword fighting, not fencing, but actual sword play, it was anything goes. Kick your opponent in the balls, use the hilt of your sword to smash his teeth in. I mean, it was a brawl. It wasn't, very finesse-like.
So I haven't read those manuals, but I have read or watched the Redneck Ninja on YouTube, and I know pocket sand is the answer to everything.
Pocket sand is the key to everything, even in today's combat lore.
But yeah, I like that the fight scenes felt more believable. I didn't understand. So the scene in the first movie where he frees turns out she's the princess, I guess, because she was related to the king, or I guess cousin, I think, whatever.
Royalty of some kind.
Yeah, she's related to the royal family, so she's nobility at a minimum, and she's going to be sacrificed. And so they got all these, these 5 chicks, tied up in rope, wearing the, barely there smock. And so they go to save her, and the other ones, hey, we're gonna go get killed for this, fake god. This guy's gonna save us. No, let's run away back to the guys that are keeping us prisoner. That made no sense to me. I mean, there are people that are too stupid to live, and
what is that called?
Stockholm, we're all in this movie.
Yeah, but I mean, there are a lot of characters that are too stupid to live, but as much as people make fun of that, there are people like that in real life. I've met a few of them. No survival instincts. Darwin did nothing for them.
Yeah.
So, but I remember watching that. I'm like, why are you running away from the people saving you?
Because he's swinging a big sword.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to get really, who was he saving them or taking them from himself? They don't know.
They know this way is certain
warlord. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
This way is certain death with this fake god, the whatever. This guy is an unknown. I would take an unknown over a guaranteed death any day.
Oh yeah.
Fair.
Absolutely.
So yeah, in my head canon, they were just going to run away into the desert and die and be eaten by buzzards rather than get sacrificed, because that was the other choice they took, apparently. And that was the other thing, is the horses. Like, I like that in certain scenes they dismounted to fight, because that's probably more realistic in the kind of the world they set. They a lot of times they would do that. They'd use the horse just to get to the target and then get down and fight. I like that they did that. So we've kind of talked about the first movie. So what did you guys think of the follow-on? So there was 3 movies, and then there was the TV series from 99 to 2002, loosely based on the first movie and the Andre Norton book, that had 3 seasons and 66 episodes. It was so bad I couldn't make it past the first episode. It was cringe in a bad way. So
I mean, how deep do you want me to go on this rabbit hole? Because I can go.
So I'm pulling up the names of the movies, because I know. So there's Beastmaster. There's Beastmaster Through the Time Portal.
Yes.
What was
Eye of Braxis.
There we go. I couldn't remember the name of the third one.
Yeah.
So dive into the rabbit hole there, Matthew.
No, the big thing for me is this going on the Mark Singer route for a second. Like, Mark Singer, by the time the second movie's made, which is 91, 92, he's not a big star anymore. I don't want to say his time has passed, but he's just not leading films. He's not leading TV shows. He's not really doing all that much. And then they decide to randomly make this movie, and it just seems so odd that because the movie did okay, it was very successful in rental, and when that made a big deal, everybody played everywhere. People loved the movie. I just thought it was really weird that 9 years later they make the sequel, and then they make a piss poor sequel. I mean, I got notes if you want me to go down, but
go down.
But no, there was a couple things that really kind of cracked me up. The big thing is PG changes between 82 and 91. So PG-13 is created between those 2 movies. So the PG that the first movie is not the PG of the second movie. So the second movie, he doesn't really kill anybody. He's doing a lot more hand-to-hand combat than he does sword fighting. They're pretty much, then of course the budget's so bad, so minimal, that they have to go back. They have to come to modern time, a la Masters of the Universe, to save on budgets for locations so they can just film around LA or wherever they filmed that movie. So I just thought that was odd. And then you could they turned Mark Singer, they turned Beastmaster into Conan. He rarely talks in that second movie. It's really just the entire thing. To me, it's like I said, like Highlander: The Quickening, where they rewrite the first run retroactively with this terrible concept. And I think that's what happens with the second movie. And then the third one comes out, and the third one, it's he's dialed back in. He's back talking and doing. It seems like all the story elements of the third film match the story elements of the first one. Nothing in the second film matches the story elements from the first one. It's really odd. And this is where I'm going to sing the praise of Mark Singer. He is 34 when they make that first movie, and he is ripped as all get out. He's 43 when they make the second one and 48 when he makes the third one. And he is in damn near the same shape, given he's a bit bigger because he's an older guy, but it's like he is in shape in all of these movies.
Why you gotta call me out like that?
Hey,
Jeez.
I'm 50. I'm trying to get back in shape, but that's a different story. But no, I think for me, ultimately, when I watched that last movie, because it's a TV movie, unlike the other one that was actually released in theaters, is it feels like it's the pilot for a show. And it's a pilot for the show they ultimately make. They just recast everybody because he like through that movie, he gets a super acrobatic sidekick. He has another sidekick. There's a girl that's part of this group. So it's really funny to me. Like, did he think he was making a pilot for a show? Because remember, like, this is 90, 95, 96. So does anybody here remember the action pack movies that came out in the early mid 90s?
Yeah.
Vanishing Sun, Hercules, that spawns that whole weird, cheesy Xena Warrior Princess.
And you leave her alone.
The Beastmaster show. It's like everything was due, and I think that's where that third movie comes in. Is they're going to make a pilot for a show, they end up recasting it, make that show because it's on the line of all those weird, random, cheesy Conan show, Hercules show, Vanishing Sun, all of that weird schlocky cheese of that era. So that's kind of my rant. I just don't know why they made these movies so far apart for a franchise that didn't really seem to have that much steam, and an actor who, I hate to say it because I love him, it wasn't like he was like, it wasn't Tom Cruise going, you know what, I want to make Jack Reacher, and them going like, you're too small, but I'm Tom Cruise, sure, make it anyway, it might be fun. So that's I guess that's my rant. I'm done for now. Go ahead, go.
Okay, so this is the original cover. Just give you some character art. This is Beastmaster 2. And that covers, man, like they could have done so much better.
Yeah.
It's that's a young Mark Singer.
Mm-hmm.
His little ferrets. We got Beastmaster 3. A little bit better on the cover. And then of course his little slave queen.
Mm-hmm.
And so
again, that boy is in shape. I got to commend that guy. He is in shape.
That is jazzercise to a T right there. That's the 80s physique. There's a lot of dehydration going on there. A lot of protein, maybe some kale.
Yeah. I don't know. Did they have kale in the 80s?
Yeah, they used it as a garnish at Pizza Hut. Like at the salad area, it was not meant to be eaten, but it was just like surrounded the salad bar area.
It was the padding.
That's a
between
fact.
the wall.
Pizza Hut was the largest purchaser of kale from like the 80s to the early 90s.
Interesting.
Yeah. I watch dumb shit on YouTube.
I mean, whatever works. But yeah, I liked the overall the universe. Did definitely makes me want to check out the short story or the novel, excuse me, which would be short by modern standards because back then novels were shorter. But yeah, I definitely want to. Yeah, I don't know how long the book actually is, but like I said, 40,000 made it a novel back then.
Oh wow!
And that's like half a novel now.
Yeah, especially for fantasy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, we're talking Tolkien, like the god of fantasy novels.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can figure out how many pages it is, but yeah, it's a short novel.
Even Dune was longer than that.
Yeah, I'm looking it up now. It doesn't seem to have a page count.
Yeah,
and he was also Native American.
What is?
He was Native. He was a Navajo and former soldier.
Well, if it's 40,000, you said 40,000 words?
That was what would make it a novel.
That would be about 160 pages on average.
Oh, here we go. 192 first edition is what this thing says, according to Wikipedia, and we all know how accurate that is.
Oh, the wiki.
Well, it depends on the sizing. So the 84 mass market paperback was 224, and then it was a different concept for the main character. I don't know that they ever tell us in word count what it would be, because formatting makes a huge difference on words to page when you look at older books.
Now, and the original book is a sci-fi novel, not a fantasy.
Yeah, but sci-fis are more expensive to make, so they had to make it a fantasy because reasons.
Yeah, well, anything with animals typically tends to be Hollywood, makes more fantastical versus fiction, science. So,
yeah, the time travel thing with Dar interacting with the military, like that was so bad.
yeah.
And the second one that I get why they wanted to pretend it never happened.
Kind of like Highlander 2
Yeah.
or Highlander 3 and like retconned.
So the problem with the Highlander series,
alien shit, we were just kidding.
Yeah.
The problem with the Highlander series is the timeline doesn't work because in the first one you could breathe underwater as a immortal because otherwise you just stay there. But then they find someone underwater who was dying and dead, but somehow the quickening happened anyway, even though later there's this new immortal. Like it didn't follow its own canon, much like Beastmaster.
So
yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed the later movies, but I think it peaked at the first one as far as it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, the wad was blown with the first one.
Yeah, the quasi gypsies in the third one was weird.
It's sad that I've seen these sequels and the syndicated series, and there's nothing memorable about them. Like nothing. Like if I want to watch Beastmaster, I'll just go back to the source. I'll go back to the well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you compare the syndicated series, the 99 to 2002, I mean, after I saw Hercules and I saw Xena Warrior Princess, watching this, it was like they took the setting of those two shows and then they tried to put like Melrose Place there instead, or 90210, and it just didn't work.
Same time,
Yeah.
Same time.
That's what happens in a lot of those shows. Then is like it's what happens with any kind of TV. Once there's something that's successful, you just kind of blueprint that crap and try and cookie cut into other things. You get CSI, whatever that's called, and then you got 15 different CSIs and 18 different NCISs, and I think that's exactly what happens here. Is Beastmaster is one of several of these. Let's lean into this Hercules success, and I don't think any of them get anywhere near as successful as Hercules or Xena.
And they didn't have Lucy Lawless, so I mean, how do you compete with that? You don't like Xena? Are you sure you're a man?
I aged out of that, dude. That was like Power Rangers cheese for me, bro. Remember, I'm much older than you guys.
Yeah. Xena was cool at the time.
Lucy Lawless gave us the gift we all wanted as young men in Spartacus.
Yes,
I'm just saying
finally,
there were scenes. Yes, there were scenes. I'm just saying scenes were had. Nick, family friendly, not this episode, but we tried.
I'm not going to talk further on it. We can talk about it offline, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. Overall, concept wise, if they didn't go modern Hollywood where they shit over everything because reasons, would you guys be interested in a reimagining, reboot, whatever you want to call it, like a modern with modern capabilities of the concept of Beastmaster?
I don't know what you could do, because there wasn't a whole lot of CGI in that movie. So what else would you do modern wise? I mean, there's different takes on storytelling now, but I don't know that you could necessarily do anything to improve upon what they originally did. You might have if you had Michael Bay direct it, man, the explosion.
Yeah, you had more pyrotechnics, yeah.
Yeah, there'd be more of that, but
maybe a Linkin Park soundtrack.
Yeah.
I think Michael's kind of what you guys are saying is true. Is like I think the big thing with this with that original one is like there's too often when people reboot something, they're rebooting the wrong thing. So like the reboot of RoboCop. RoboCop was not an action film. RoboCop was a satire of modern violence.
Yeah.
And the guy, when they rebooted it, they're just like, no, let's just make it an action film. And it's just nowhere near as amazing as that first movie.
It's not as impactful.
Do
like
what?
Paul Van Hoven was making a statement on modern society at that time, and then when they went to try to make an action film, like Matthew was saying, it didn't have that same impact. It doesn't have that same sort of societal critique.
Yeah.
It was purely an action film. It looked cool. The suit looked cool, all that stuff, but it missed the mark in having that same animus of the original RoboCop, which it was over the top. It had gratuitous violence. It was meant to be a mirror placed in front of society of like, this is where we're heading, and the only thing that you could do with Beastmaster is like, they'll probably CGI the animals.
Well, what you could do with Beastmaster would be, modern storytelling tends to have more complex and deeper plots than the surface level stuff you get from the 80s. Sword and sorcery, sword and sandal. So you would end up just improving on the storyline more than just CGIing it or whatever. I do think you could get more dynamic locations because the ability to do background scenery with CGI outside of just the.
I think you would lose something too doing green screen shit.
It depends on how good they do it.
I mean, even with the prequel trilogies of Star Wars, most of that was filmed in front of green screen, and it didn't have the same impact as the original story or the original trilogy,
Yeah, I think you'd have to keep it practical because there's not really a need to do most of that. I mean, yeah, for safety purposes, you probably don't want your lead actor hanging out with a bear. But I mean, I think
depends on what women you ask.
I mean,
chose the bear.
Yeah, but I think you got. I think the potential here is the mistake would be to try and make it a franchise. Like, look at the first John Wick movie. They had no idea how successful that movie was going to be or it was going to go anywhere.
It was a total accident that it was that way.
Yeah. So I think taking this story, keeping it to the bare bones of like this guy who's going on a revenge trip, and his revenge trip happens to entangle him back into saving the kingdom that he is technically a prince of. I really feel like that is so glossed over about who he really should be. It's glossed over to like the literally a line of like, you should be king. And he's like, no, I want to go bang this chick. I'll see you later. And he leaves. Like,
I'm really into my cousin, so I'm just going to peace out. Let the boy rule the
hey, maybe it's in Alabama. My point is
what in the name of Sweet Home Alabama is going on here?
Yeah.
So
what in the name of Mobile is going on around here?
Yeah, but I
think what they're leaning. I think what they were leaning into with that ending is the cowboy rides off into the sunset vibe. But when you have but it didn't work as well because of the, this is your home. Like, what, you're just going to wander forever. You don't really address what happens to the horde because you kill the army, but they came from somewhere. They can rebuild. I mean, they pop
that
out
should
more
have been the scene right there. It's like going after.
Well, and also, it's depending on how deep you want to go, is like, who is he really? Like, he has no attachment to this kingdom. Like, he has never stepped foot in that place until he comes back later. Like,
because he claimed what, Emirate? Was that the people that took him in?
So he's one of them. So why would he even stick around? Like, a kingdom I don't know anything about, and a father who literally told me right before he was killed that I was a piece of crap. Stop talking to animals. Get out of here.
You coward piece of shit. That's pretty much what he just dumped all over him.
So I think visiting those things and getting a little more into delving into identity of like, I am a hero and I want to be a hero, but I'm a hero for these reasons, not because I'm on a revenge trip to save this kingdom, but because this is the right thing to do. I would probably lean into more giving him that more heroic vibe as the movie ends, and then him just going like you said, like, hey, we stopped the Jun horde from destroying the city, but there's still some of them out there. We're going to go hunt them down and kill them. Let's hunt orcs, whatever. And then he and Gimli
make alliances with other people that have problems with the Jun.
And then you had the opportunity for a deeper look at what it means to be a father, because you've got the father that raised him, and then the one that spurned him later. Admittedly, like his biological dad didn't abandon him. He was stolen, right? But but when he saw him, he turned his back on him, intentionally or otherwise. I mean, there was some room for some depth in that situation that they just didn't do.
And look, I don't think they were going for an epic. I think they were doing something that was akin to Conan, but slightly different to set it apart. Because you had a lot of things going on here. You had like the prodigal son trope. You had the revenge trope. You have the man without a people, the lone survivor trope. Like, there's a lot of just brilliant things going on in this movie that nobody really wants to give it credit for. That it should have been as an equal franchise to Conan. But it just, I don't know what happened. It just didn't take off. I did get a lot of notoriety when we went to VHS, home entertainment stuff. Conan was big right from the bat, because you get Conan the Barbarian 82, and then like 84, 86, you get the Destroyer, and we had to wait
on
like
TV.
9.
I mean, it was obviously, a cult classic, right? Because, played on TBS so much. TBS was probably known there for a while as the Beastmaster channel.
Right. Yeah. And to be honest, it was one of my favorite films growing up, like, because it was on TBS, it was on USA, it was on those channels, and I watched it a lot, and I got to see Tanya Roberts' boobs for the first time. First set of boobs I ever saw. So obviously it was ingrained in my brain. And so when she showed up later in that 70s show, I'm like, oh man, they got bigger. But we won't talk about that because it's a family-friendly show.
Not anymore.
I thought it was superior to Conan, to be honest with you, as far as storytelling and
I'll say that. Look, let me. I'm gonna go on another tangent. Not a tangent, but I want to. There is an unsung hero in this movie that I don't think anybody ever talks about. Dar's adopted father is a effing badass. He is just minding his own. Yeah, he's minding his own business. Sees this woman about to kill a baby. No questions asked. Throws the thing. Gets in there. Kills a witch himself.
Murks her.
And
it was awesome.
Then, as an old dude, sees this entire horde of guys, pulls out a sword, draws a line, and is like, "Come on, come on!" Now,
bring it, witch. I got all night.
There's actually a guy that did that during the American Revolution. That he did that. He was like in his 80s, and they shot him like 20 times or something. They couldn't kill him, and he just kept fighting. That there are people like that are just built differently.
Yeah, but I think that's, again, kind of going to a little bit of what I was saying before, is like, that's the guy who raised Dar. That is why Dar is the way he is because of that man. And I think it's just kind of like, oh, his dad died and he went on to do other things. So that would be something like you were talking about.
Well, and then like he
exploring
taught him agriculture, hunting. Like he made him a very advanced intellectual type person. Like he's not a dumb barbarian. Like he wasn't a slave. Like he was trained to like better the community. So he's like raised to be selfless, which I think is really important for that character because throughout that entire movie, he is selfless. Little bit rapey in some of the scenes.
Yeah. There's a little bit.
But it was the 80s. That's kind of how it was. I don't agree with it. I'm just saying that's just how it was. But the character, you're absolutely right, Matthew. Like the adoptive father is very integral in instilling
but that's why
values.
That's why I said one of the themes you could have dove deeper into was what it means to be a father, like the role of the father, and then as he becomes as a leader, the father of his people, and the nature of what that looks like, good and bad. But I did promise we would try to wrap this up soon. I know Michael's got to go fly high into the Coast Guard, Space Force. I knew there was something. So just a real quick reference, guys. If you heard me talk about the Revolutionary War guy, the Fat Electrician did a video about him. His name is Samuel Whitmore Jr., a badass guy. He's literally the oldest known combatant in the American Revolution, and he was a private soldier, just a regular PFC type guy who just decided, you know what, I got nothing else to do. Let's fight the British. And they shot him a whole bunch of times. He's a badass. You should watch the video.
I've seen that one. It's awesome.
That guy made me like – he made me, when you watch the video about his life, and I'm like, man, I got to step it up. I'm not doing enough.
The videos he did on the Ranger Regiment, hilarious and accurate, and it makes me sound like such a badass. Like I don't really look back at that time like, oh man, I was totally Billy Badass. But when I listen to the Fat Electrician talk about my kind, I'm like, oh, I guess we were kind of badass now that I think about it.
Yeah, so he's an interesting fella. And he was at Lexington and Concord in his 70s, and he just walked out there, set his rifle down, grabbed his sword, and like, okay, bring it. We need that was definitely, I was getting that vibe from Dar's adopted dad, which is why I mentioned that. Like, he was just like, yeah, I got that. And I think part of what was going through his head, at least as I read it when I watched it, he knew his son and a few of the other young men were away hunting and doing their thing. So if he didn't try to flee and he stood his ground and made them think they won, because obviously they knew they weren't going to stand for long, maybe by dying there, they saved the young.
Yeah.
And there was shades of that. Because you remember, like, only the ones that came back first, they all died. And then Dar's there, and he would have died too, but the dog saved him. So, by trying to like speed up the initial conflict, you saw efforts of the old to save the young. It didn't work, with the exception of Dar, but you could definitely respect that. So, all right. With that, any closing thoughts about Beastmaster? Other than Nick loves to look at mammary glands. And
Michael, what you got? What's your closing thoughts, buddy?
It's a hero's story, but it is not the classic hero's journey. But I'm not sure what exactly it is in terms of his arc, because we see, as pointed out, a lot of different things that were put upon him. We see his backstory, but really the rest of the movie is about him fully formed as a warrior, as a hero, and it's more about him, displaying the hero that he is and changing the world around him rather than being changed by the world. So I guess it's an interesting mix of a lot of different tropes, and I think as opposed to some of the other genre type movies that threw in all these tropes and you got a mixed bag that didn't work, here it all kind of came together in this something, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts type of deal. So it's a movie that I'll always watch if it's on, although I haven't seen it on in a long time, so probably have to get it on Blu-ray or something.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those ones that's worth revisiting, introduce kids to the old stuff, the good stuff. Any closing thoughts, Matthew?
I mean, I think Michael pretty much summed it up. I mean, I don't know if I have anything to add. I mean, it's a great film. It's a movie. There are so many times I revisit films from my childhood and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was such a kid. I don't get that feeling when I watch this movie. It's cheese, but it's not crap. So I have no problem watching this movie. I have a good time with it. I will never watch those other two.
Once was enough.
Yeah, that was good enough. Let's just say there's just like there's only 3 Star Wars movies. There's only 1 Beastmaster movie. Same like there's only 1 Matrix movie. Like
only 1 Highlander movie.
Only 1 Highlander movie. Decent show, but only 1 Highlander movie. But yeah, I think that's it's what Michael said. I got to back him up.
All right, Nick, any closing thoughts?
No, I just to jump on the coattails of Matthew, who talked about Michael. Yeah, he summed it up. It's a really good movie. I think it should have got a little bit more attention at it during its time than it did. It's a movie I watch at least once a year when I'm feeling nostalgic. That Lady Hawk, some of the other, sword sorcery type stuff that I was really into. I don't know if it was a thing about being a kid in the 80s. We were like really into sword and sorcery stuff. So if it like Legend, like, oh my God, such a good movie. So
let's not go that far.
I still believe little kid Nick,
I'm with Nick on
little
this.
baby Ranger Nick loved Legend, even though Tom Cruise was in it. But I had Tim Curry in it. Tim Curry is who I remember most about that movie. It scared the hell out of me, as the darkness. He was like you could do a whole show based on like that character alone, because he was He was
Him and the lead
loving,
cop
but
one.
he was evil and vengeful and just like you didn't know where to be with this guy. Like even when he was being a dick, you were like, yeah, I get it.
No, I think Legend's one of those movies. Had I watched it as a kid, I probably would have been into it, but not fun. Watching it for the first time in my late 20s and then not again until about 8 years ago, I was like, nah.
This was a blockbuster? Are you really?
It wasn't. It failed big time.
Oh yeah, it was a
It
huge
was not
flop.
a-
I remember my dad took me to go see it. And he was bored. He fell asleep. I had to wake him up after it was done. Bored the shit out of him. And I was just like, for however long that movie was, I was like,
But you know, one thing the kids will never get that we did, having watched these movies as kids. When we watched movies on TV, you couldn't just pause it when you had to go to the bathroom. You had to time it for the commercials, and then everybody ran for the closest one and hopes
damn
that you
sprint to the
back.
bathroom. Now I was the only child, so I had it easy, but I still had to sprint
Sprints to
because
the kitchen
it was a
for like
long ass hallway to the bathroom.
snacks. Sprints for your snacks too. Like, oh man, I really want some more sody pop, but I gotta wait for this commercial.
One of my top 10 ass whoopings is because I didn't run to the bathroom. I was holding it so bad, I ran out the front door and pissed on the bushes. So I'm like 6 years old, just right out the front door. My parents are like, where the hell is this kid going? And there I am, just like kindergarten pee, pants around the ankles, just watering the roses. You know, street lights are on, the front porch is lights on, my ass is just shining. You know?
And your poor neighbors, they were talking.
Yeah. They were like,
So-
that Garber kid's out there pissing in the rose bushes. What a weirdo.
All right, Matthew, if people wanted to stalk you on the wild interwebs, how might they do so?
You can find me on Twitter at Mr. J Ninja. That's Mr. with the letter J Ninja. And then you can find me on my podcast. I think it's everywhere as We Are the Batman. I do it with Mike Shea. We have a blast talking Batman and all kind of DC stuff.
Okay, so with Ninja in your title, could you take the redneck ninja? You think you could beat him?
Easily. I don't know who he is.
Matthew's got skills.
He's got ninja foo. Just
Yeah.
saying. All right, Michael, how might we stalk you on the interwebs?
Yeah, so you could find me on Facebook, both as Michael Morton, and then my fan page, Mike's Adventure Gateway. You can find my books on Amazon, and that's about it. I don't do the X. I don't do TikTok. I'm way too old for those things. So
It would be better if you were wearing a wife beater and boxers and standing on your yard lawn when you said that, shaking your fist at the sky. Like, I think that's kind of required for that setting, to get the pastiche right.
you're only as old as you feel.
Well, then I'm like not in my 40s. I'm in my 80s sometimes because I feel every one of those injuries.
Well, let's put it this way. You have to grow old, but you don't have to grow up.
There is that. There is that.
Exactly.
All right. So because this is the Blast and Blaze, I do have to remind you to please be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right book. So do your part, people. It really does matter. And with that, you can find us on our Linktree at linktr.ee/Blasters and Blaze podcast. Again, Linktree/Blasters and Blaze podcast, where we link to all the things, the BitChutes, the Rumbles, the YouTube, the TikTok, the Twitters. We have our Spotify website link there, Blasters and Blaze Facebook group and Facebook page. We link to our email at blastersandblazepodcast@gmail.com. Again, blastersandblazepodcast@gmail.com. For professional purposes only, people, save the shenanigans from Adam Stabby Stab on the Instagram, Twitter, and the email. And if you want to support the show, help keep the lights on, you could do so by going to buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the comment section that is for the podcast. And I promise I will keep my co-hosts duly caffeinated. They will drink that coffee brand coffee until it flows out of their nostrils and burns their hair. Because reasons, and I got to come up with a better metaphor.
Perfect.
But
reasons works.
Reasons. All right, and it's science.
Science.
That was our answer in everything in the Army. Oh, it's science. And if you want to get some of your own Blasters and Blades coffee over there at the Coffee Brand Coffee, it's not named after us yet, but if you buy enough of it, maybe they will give us a blend what they name after us. But you go to the link in the show notes, use the code podcast grunts, you get 10%
bitter as shit.
Probably. You get 10% off. We get a little bit of kickback. It's a win-win. You support an American company employing American workers because it is not a dropship operation. No, it is roasted in America. And that's cool. And if you're not in America, shop local. It's cool. We want your support, but we also, shopping local is good for the environment and it's good for your local economy. There ends my soapbox because Nick will beat me if I last too long on the soapboxes. He says it's not right to be political or something. Thank you. Thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy co-host, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time, and we'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. And if you couldn't tell, Matt is not the only one who had a lot of coffee today. I am on my 9th cup. So, all right, Nick, I will try not to have a stroke. And with that, we're going to hit the end button. Wait for